Are some of your people sabotaging your initiatives as a leader? Well, the answer is yes, the chances are they are. Because, well, there's various different reasons, but there's a more obvious reason that people tend to know about. And there's a subtle reason that perhaps not even the person who's doing it knows about. And the first one is, very simply, that it goes up against a personal desire. So something that happens, that needs to happen, someone may look at it and go, that's not good for my career, that's not good for my position in the business. So while on the surface they'll say yes, 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 what they'll do is they'll sabotage it. And they will look at it and think, I'm not going to endorse this. Because it goes against what they want personally, their personal aspirations. And so that may be that they may feel like their control or their power or their influence is being eroded. And this especially happens at senior levels, but it happens all the way through the business. So those things are quite well known, and unfortunately that happens because people's personal objectives and personal desires and the way they want to do things and the things they need personally, the kudos of doing things a certain way or being in charge of that particular department, this new initiative threatens them in some way. That's quite well known. There's actually a more subtle one that's actually more common, but it's just not as obvious because sometimes the person who's doing it doesn't actually understand it. They don't even realise they're doing it. And that is when the new initiative or the change comes along and it just puts them in a position where they have to do something they've never done before. They've never had to behave this way before. They've never had to act in this way before. And this is and I don't like the term because it's actually technically wrong. This is when people are having to get outside of their comfort zone and do something different. The human brain is actually pretty conditioned to not like change that much. And there's a good reason for that, because when we don't have much change and we know what we're doing and we feel in control and then we can feel confident, our brain likes this. So on the surface, that's a good thing because it actually makes us confident, we're productive, we know what we need to do, we just get on with it. That's good. But as we know, nothing in the world stays the same. That's why my company is called Certain Change, because change is absolutely certain, which may be a change that has to happen because your competitor has done something, or the environment, the economic or financial environment has changed, or someone's come up with a bright idea to do something different. And I remember years ago working with a lovely lady who worked for me part-time, and she hated change. She absolutely loathed it. So it was a great lesson for me of how to introduce change to her, and it was painfully slow. But once she got into it, and she was supported and helped, and she got grumpy, she didn't want to do it, she wanted to keep the old system. Once she had the new system, then she was fine. She was in the new system. But that's her sabotaging it. And if I wasn't persistent with her, but also very careful about how I managed her, she would get very, very stroppy and upset. She just couldn't handle change. But she was the bulletproof employee that I went to, because I would know that what she was doing every day, she would never drop the ball. She would never make a mistake. So in that respect, she was so valuable. But getting her to change was a nightmare. So that was a great lesson when I was in my early 20s. And boy, did I mess it up to start with, because I just expected her to be able to change. Hey, this is the new way of doing it. This is the reason why, blah, blah, blah. And 3 conversations later, she was still doing the old way. So change is a very, very emotionally evocative thing. And even though there may be really big reasons why that change must happen, it's a good idea, or there's a problem we need to fix, we've got to change, or there's a huge benefit to making the change, most people hold back from making changes. And it's a complex thing to put in place, not because of it's just new to the person and what do we need to do. Our brain tends to want to hold on to the old thing. Some people like change. Some people like a lot of change, and they thrive on it. But we all have a limit and tolerance. Now, in the last few years, most people have been pushed through that tolerance limit of what we can handle, what we actually can deal with. In the last couple of years has changed the workplace more than any other time that I can ever remember. So putting change in place is a complex thing, but it needs to happen. So there's a lot of people who subtly sabotage, who don't even realise because they personally don't like change, can't handle any more change, and will just get in the way of initiatives. And this is why initiatives die. Great idea, goes to the first level, starts to roll out. This happens in this department, this function embraces it, this one doesn't. And the whole thing fails. So if you are thinking about or need to ask, why do my initiatives not happen? Then we have a nice kickoff point. We do a workshop for an hour and a half with senior leaders, company owners, and then their teams, if required. And we look at the process of putting change in. And I like to do it very practically. There's 4, possibly 5 steps to how you look at it, of how to put change in. And most people don't know how to do that. Most people, especially if you're an entrepreneurial sort of thinker, change is something you enjoy more, so you'll grab it. But for most people, change is stressful. And if you've got some changes to put in, or you've been trying to and they just keep failing, get in touch and we can start looking at the mechanisms that you need to be looking at. So where did that change fail and why? And we have a great little short 1.5 hour workshop just to point you in the right direction about how to solve the problems when change has failed, but also how to set it up and implement it so it's much more likely to be successful. There's obviously links around this to connect. Please do so if you're interested, because not everybody likes change in the same way, and getting the buy-in and getting them to commit to it can be puzzling when people don't, when it's obvious they should be, but we'll help you solve that. So hopefully it's been useful to you, and hope to speak to you soon. But please just book in, send us an email, and we can start that conversation. I hope this has been useful to you. Thanks for your time.